Welcome to Child Rights Art Education Series. I remain Olakunle Sanni. On today's edition, we'll be looking at section 33, which is still under part 3, covering the protection of the rights of the child. So, on today's edition, like I said, we're looking at section 33. And section 33 speaks to other forms of exploitation. That is, other forms of exploitation, apart from those earlier mentioned in section 31 and section 32, or maybe another part too. So subsection 1 of section 33 says, a person who exploits a child in any other form or way not already mentioned in this part of this act, which is prejudicial to the welfare of the child, commits an offense. Then subsection 2 goes further to say, a person who commits an offense under subsection 1 of this section is liable on conviction to a fine of 500,000 naira or imprisonment to a term of 5 years or to both such fine and imprisonment. So those are the subsections we have under section 33. And like it says, other forms of exploitation. And for those of us, there's somehow a little difference between exploitation and abuse in terms of when you look at the technical term. But let me just say, when you're talking about exploitation, we're talking about somebody taking advantage of a child for his or her own self profit or gratification. So that means it may not, when somebody does something to the child and the person benefiting, it's not the child, and it's another person, then it becomes exploitation. So so this part is speaking majorly about those kind of exploitation which have not been spelled out, either sexual exploitation or any other form of exploitation, which have not been spelled out in these parts. And that's what the part one, the subsection 1 of this section said, that any other that is not already mentioned in this part 3, particularly this part of this act, which has to do, which, as we've been talking about, the protection of the right of a child. So if there's any other exploitation that has not been mentioned, but what is most important for us is to understand what exploitation means. Then when somebody, like I said, when somebody uses a child for a purpose which is not to the advantage of that child, but to the advantage of another person, and that's why we say child labor is exploitation, because the person who is gaining from that act, it's while the child is into the labor, somebody else is earning or getting money or getting a kind of getting a sign of gratification from that service which the child is rendering. And so that's when you look at, so once, what is most important here is for you to understand that, okay, apart from child labor, what other form of exploitation may occur, like we talk about in child trafficking, that when children are being trafficked from one point to the other, or maybe children are being smuggled or taken from one point to the other through illegal route, it is to the advantage of some certain persons or certain individuals and not to the advantage of that child. So, and subsection 2 says that when a person commits this offense, when the person is found guilty, then this person could be committed to imprisonment for a term of 5 years, or maybe it could be given a fine of 500,000 naira, depending on how the judge sees, or the view of the judge on the case, or the severity of the case. And sometimes this subsection 2 also says that the judgment could also be both 500,000 and the 5 year jail term. So this is what the section 33 speaks to. I hope it has been able to provide some insight into what exploitation, what punishments are available for or people who exploit children. So thank you very much. Do ensure that you subscribe to this channel or join our Facebook group, and also try to share with others so that others can get knowledge about the rights of the child. Thank you, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye.